Hello everyone, I'm Merle Lewis, a child advocate and custody evaluator. This segment has something for both parents and evaluators. For the evaluators, I'll note by severity some of the behavioral signs and provide examples of how they manifest themselves in real-life scenarios. As some of these signs are not always as easily identifiable as one might think. And for the parents, I have a list of tips for your evaluation when it comes to parental alienation, from both the I've been accused of and the I am the victim of points of view. You can contact me through Children of Divorce and Separation if you would like a copy emailed to you. Now, parental alienation occurs when the disparaging or alienating parents put their needs above the needs of their own children. A parent may even unknowingly engage in parental alienation when they cannot separate their conflict with the other parent, from the other parent with the needs of their children. Or PA can knowingly be used as a strategy in custody cases. Now, for the ease of understanding, all of my examples will be from the point of view that the mother is the alienator and the father is the target parent. Statistics show that this is the case the majority of the time. Mothers alienate more than twice as often as dads. But it's not just a mom thing. PA is comprised of a family dynamic of three: the alienator, the target, and the casualty, the child. As a custody evaluator, you may be the first professional identifier of the strategy or disorder. You may also be the first professional to get information directly from the child. When others may have been informed by one or both parents, such as teachers, doctors, clergy, etc., they deal with problems at an adult level. As an evaluator, when seeing through the eyes of the child, it can show a vastly different picture. Age, of course, is always a factor. Where infants do not have the understanding to become alienated, it is possible to influence a toddler. And as a child ages, alienation grows if the child believes what the alienating parent tells them. But it does not grow or start in a child who does not believe or absorb the negativity. This difference in sibling beliefs can cause harm within the family structure. As per Dr. William Burnett, one of the speakers at this conference, who's extremely knowledgeable on the subject of parental alienation, he generally defines mild parental alienation as when the child exhibits unwarranted hostility, the child is reluctant to go to the other parent, but once there, has a good time. A simple example of the beginnings of parental alienation might go something like this. Dad arrives to pick up his 6-year-old daughter, Anna. Mom informs Dad that Anna does not want to go with him today. Anna volunteers that she wants to stay at Mom's because they made cookies today. Dad responds, "Really? I have chocolate chip cookies. What kind did you make?" Anna says, "Peanut butter, and they taste good. Come on, Dad, let's go. I want to taste your cookies too." Now, the child had no real reluctance to go, but the mother initiated and promoted a reason for Anna to stay. Another example of mild alienation may be 5-year-old Ivy, whose upturned, happy, smiling face was constantly wanting to be involved in every adult conversation, until her dad was mentioned. Then she would immediately look down and stare at the floor, her smile gone. She would just turn her back and walk away. And this reaction became even more pronounced when the child was in the presence of her mother. Then when her dad was mentioned, she would shake her head and her fist or stamp her foot on the floor and be much more dramatic. But once Ivy was away from her mother, and there was no longer any negative responses towards her dad at all, and she participated happily in all of her activities with him. Ivy will still accept a transfer between her parents without issues at this point. This is still at the mild stage, but Ivy's behavior is already changing in response to the mother's negative stimuli regarding the father. As adults, parents need to learn to identify the difference between an acceptable parent and an unacceptable spouse. These are two vastly different roles in life, and when these roles are not differentiated and separated, an angry ex-spouse can quickly become an alienator. And if the alienating behaviors continue to escalate, they are ripe for developing into the moderate stage of alienation. And the moderate stage is when the child becomes resistant to parenting time. As the alienation grows, they become reluctant to go, and then they act negatively towards the targeted parent when they are with them. They may also develop unwarranted fears toward the target parent. These often stem from false accusations of sexual or physical abuse. The child becomes more involved during this phase, with some of the key indicators becoming more pronounced in the child, such as bad-mouthing and disdain and resentful behaviors towards the target parent. Any gratitude for gifts or favors provided by the targeted parent is non-existent. And it's not just the dad who is rejected, but the extended family also start to be alienated. The child will start to display attitudes like, "Mom says you're just a loser, and so is your whole family, and I think so too." Or, "I don't have to do what you say because Mom says I don't have to listen to you." At this point, the alienating parent may even allow the child to start making decisions about contact and visitation. When allowing the child to make decisions about contact, many alienators apply the strategy of going out of their way to plan something extra special that the child would just love to do at the exact same time that the targeted parent's time is about to start, thus giving the child a reason to say, "I don't want to go with Dad." When the alienation becomes this pronounced, you may find a resistance within the child based on irrational fears regarding the target parent, such as 7-year-old Yousef, whose mother had denigrated his dad often in the past, but had not done so recently. Yousef had not seen his father since he was only 2 years old, and had no memory of him other than what his mother had told him. When meeting Yousef, he seemed happy, well-adjusted, got along with his classmates, had good grades in school, generally seemed quite normal. But he would not play outside. Everyone in his life just considered it a quirk and allowed him to always stay indoors looking out the window. When I asked for a reason, he said, "I just don't like to go out." So I pushed him a little. And then he said, "The sun hurts my eyes." I said, "You can wear sunglasses." Then it was, "Well, the air might smell bad." I took a deep breath and said, "Smells like the neighbors baking cookies today." When all of his reasons had finally been put aside, he finally told me the reason that he didn't want to go outside. He was afraid of the sky. It seemed when he was about 4 years old, his mother had told him, amongst many other negative things about his father, that his father could just swoop in and take him anytime he wanted to. Ever since the child heard this, he has been terrified that his dad would swoop down out of the sky in his private airplane and scoop him up out of his yard, stealing him against his will. And the only defense the 4-year-old child could effect was to never go outside. So he'd given up 3 years of his life just watching from the window, but not playing ball with his friends or riding his bike, all out of an irrational, delusionary fear fostered by his mother about his dad. And when the fears and hatred reach this point, you are headed towards severe alienation. This is when the child adamantly refuses to have a relationship with the targeted parent, even to the point of running away. I'd like to note at this point that this level of severity is always based on the behavior of the child and not on the behavior of the alienating parent. But when the alienating parent is successful, the child will work just as hard as the alienator to eradicate the target parent. Severe alienation can damage a child's mind in ways that can take years to recover from, if ever. A father once showed me a video of himself and his 7-year-old daughter, Jasia. They were in a boat. She was waving and holding up a foot-long trout. The child had a grin on her face from ear to ear as she called out, "I caught it! I caught this fish!" And you could see the delight in her face as she beamed at the camera. Now, Yousef was 14 years old when we met. After seeing the video and hearing from her dad the story of her catching her first fish, and interviewing her uncle who had taken the video and was there at the time with his 8-year-old son, it seemed obvious that at one time there had been a very good relationship between father and daughter. However, at 14, Yousef could just not admit it, that she had ever had a fun time with her dad or any other member of his family. First, she chose to deny the event had ever happened. It was not really her in the video. It was somebody else. And then vehemently she assured me she had never caught a fish in her life. She had never been on a boat in her life. Not with her dad. Not in her entire life. When reminded of her uncle's confirmation that he really had happened and he had taken the video, she then said that her dad had altered the video to make it look like she was happy, but she had really been super sad because she had been with her dad. And when her cousin, Jürgen, now 15, no longer 8, reminded her that he was there and had caught a fish too, she told him he was a liar, then added that her dad had made it up to make him tell her a lie just to the evaluator because Dad hated her and her mom so much. Then she blurted out, full of rage, that if her dad had ever taken her in a boat, it must have been because he wanted to rape her. She had no guilt towards Jürgen for falsely calling him a liar or for Dad being accused of wanting to rape her, just out of the blue. But her anger and her rage just would not let her see things clearly. Yousef would produce and change any story that did not fit with her mother's story that her dad hates her and had somehow harmed and abused her, even though there was no record of any abuse, nor could Yousef specify any memory or any event of harm. In chambers, she actually argued with the judge, stating emphatically that she had never lived a day with her father, not even one day of her life. The record proved that to be totally untrue, and it was then, after all these years of damage had been inflicted, that custody was finally transferred and she started alienation therapy with her dad, which by her 18th birthday had still left this child badly damaged psychologically and emotionally. Her mother refused to participate in any therapy and accused Yousef of being disloyal to her. Now, Yousef was an only child, but in families where there are siblings, not all the kids in the family will be alienated to the same degree, if alienated at all. Every child is unique. Within a family, each child may react differently to the same stimuli. Some children may imbibe the alienation, some may not. In one instance, I encountered 5-year-old Eric, who had become totally enmeshed with his mother by his 8th birthday. But his 3-year-old brother Stanley had been not mentally developed enough to understand his mother's vitriolic rantings about his father. So he continued to want to see his dad. By the time Stanley turned 6 years old, he was battling with his mother regularly to spend more time with his dad. He enjoyed activities with his dad and expressed rather loudly to his mother that he wanted to live with his dad because his dad was nicer than she was. He also informed his teacher, his doctor, and his babysitter of this belief, much to Mom's chagrin, as she was busy telling the teacher, the doctor, and the babysitter what a terrible bad person the boy's father was, and she wanted their help to protect her children from this monster. Where the 8-year-old Eric parroted every bad-mouthing comment that his mother made, 6-year-old Stanley proclaimed that his mother was a liar who told people bad things and told people stuff is bigger than they really are, a 6-year-old's way of saying Mom exaggerates. Different personalities at different ages with different levels of comprehension. same parents, same parenting behaviors. One child completely enmeshed and alienated, hates his father with a passion. One child completely involved and loves his father. As times passed and the children grew, these opposing views caused a great deal of harm to the sibling relationship, from name-calling and fighting to actually declaring that they hated each other. Now, the bottom line, parental alienation is child abuse, and PA does nothing more than leave a trail of broken people in its wake. There are no winners. I thank you very much. Thank you for listening. Anyone who would like a copy of the tips list for parents undergoing evaluations, please contact me at CODAS-USA@live.com. That's CODAS-USA@LIVE.com. Thank you very much. It has been a privilege to present here today.